Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Mr. Outlaw, and we're back with episode 2 of RDA clones. And today we're going to take a look at the Marquis RDA clone, and we're going to look at two different versions. One from tobeco, which retails for about $16.99, and the other one, which I got off of Fasttech.com, and retails for about $10, depending on what color you're going to get. So let's get into it. The Marquis RDA. This has probably become my favorite dripper out of all the devices I own. It's getting cloudy in here. Like I was saying, it's probably become my favorite device for a lot of reasons. First of all, this thing is super easy to build on. I mean, if you're new to vaping, if you're new to dripping, if you're new to building coils on drippers, you need to look at this device. It's ridiculously easy to build on. To top it off, it's got a super deep juice well. I mean, 6 millimeters deep. It'll hold a lot of juice, and it doesn't leak very often unless you turn it on its side like this or something like that. It gives phenomenal flavor, and it gives phenomenal vapor. I mean, I'm currently rocking this on my SX Mini, and I have a review of this coming. I just need to do some more testing with it and really know I know what I'm doing with it and have comparisons between this and the Evolve DNA 40 chip. So we have that coming in a few days, but take a look at this. Rocking this right now on 25 joules. I've got a 0.13 ohm coil, 430 degrees, and I'm rocking a single coil in this. It's not even in double coil mode. Take a look at this. That's a lot of vapor for a single coil and not at a high wattage. I mean, this is a great device. Now, the problem with the Marquis RDA, like a lot of the other authentics out there, it's retailing anywhere between $120 and $160 online. That's a lot of money if you're going to buy an RDA, especially when you consider devices like this SX Mini, they're $200. So you're spending almost as much money on an RDA, a little piece of stainless steel, that you're paying for a whole mod. That's kind of out of control. So we're going to take a look at two different clones today. I found one that I got online at $16.99. It's made by tobeco, and the other one is on Fasttech.com for $10.59. And there's some cheaper ones and a couple ones that are a couple dollars more depending on what color you get. And I have seen them at some local retailers as well. But we're going to take a look at both of them. We're going to look at the differences with them. We'll build one, and then we're going to come back and I'll tell you what I think and which one I think is the better clone on the market. So let's get into that. Okay, so like I said, we have two different ones. We have one from tobeco and we have one that I got off of Fasttech.com. Now, you can get this one from Fasttech from some of the online vendors, and you can usually tell the difference by the center pin, which you'll see when we break this down. Let's open up the tobeco version first. It comes in this little box like this. It just says tobeco with a picture of what should be a Marquis, just a generic little picture. And we'll open it up, and they have this box really crammed tight. Now, here we have two different rings. They're drip tip adapters. We'll get into that in a minute. Then we have here our rods, some extra screws, some replaceable O-rings, and a little tiny screwdriver. Then we have some wick and wire, and the wire is not made into a coil or anything. And honestly, it's been so crammed in, I don't even know if this wire is usable anymore. It's been kind of crammed in, bent up. And then we have our Marquis RDA. Now, if we open this thing up, we're going to have to put this on my little atomizer thing here. Okay. So first, we're going to take a look at the inside here. Okay, we have our Marquis logo here. Now, if you look closely on the Marquis logo, it's not etched very well. It's definitely not etched very well. It's almost like they went over it a second time and didn't do a good job. But other than that, it's in pretty good condition here. So, I mean, we definitely have a thing with the tobeco as far as the etching and the cleaning. There wasn't a whole lot of machine oil on it. One rinse and I was good. We'll take this off of here. Down on the bottom, there is a serial number, but again, it doesn't mean much because it's a clone. And we have an adjustable 510 pin, and I'm not really sure. It doesn't say on the tobeco website what that's made out of. Okay, then we have 2 screws here for our negatives. We have one up here for our positive. Now, one of the beauty things about the Marquis, and I'm not going to go too in depth of what's so awesome about Marquis over everything else, is this innovation right here. This screw head, there's like these little pieces here. If you look on the edge, these little lip pieces here. If we can take our screwdriver, you see these little lips. And what happens is you take this screw out, and then you're going to wrap the wire around this, and then that screw is automatically going to trap it down. Then we have some rods, which we'll pull out these rods. We have these 4 rods, and they're 2 pairs. So basically you have 2 small ones and 2 larger ones. And the smaller ones, you have on one side, it's a 2.5 millimeter rod. Then you have a 3 millimeter rod on the other side. Then on the larger set, you have a 3.5 milliliter and a 4 millimeter rod. And this is what we're going to first build our coils on, and second, install our coils. And when we get into the build, you'll see this. Basically what you're going to do is wrap your coil around this, and then you're just going to drop it down. There's a little hole in the bottom there, if you see that. And we're going to put our rod in there with our coil wrapped around. And that's going to allow us to have our coil perfectly centered over this airflow. It's an ingenious design, very similar to the Veritas. However, this is much easier to build on than the Veritas. Now, getting back into just the tobeco version, we have 2 O-rings here. Then we have our top cap here. And we have our 3 air holes. So if you're going to run it in double coil, you're going to simply take your air holes and line them up. And then if you're going to run it in single coil, you're going to line your center coil up. Now on our top cap here, which is where you could drip, you have, they say is a peak insulator. I'm not quite sure if it's peak. That's what they say. It has 1 O-ring. And then it just pops on here like this. Now, as far as negatives, right off the bat, on the tobeco version, I have a hard time with this top cap. This O-ring, I've gone through a couple of them because when it gets a little bit of heat, it seems to expand, and then no longer does it sit in here well. And you can see here, whatever I do, I can't get it to sit flush. And I actually contacted esiggity.com. They sent me a new one. It worked for a little while, and then I had the same issue. So I actually have to put it in and kind of twist it to get it to sit flush, to kind of like force that O-ring to get down into the seal. So that is definitely a problem with the tobeco version. I don't know if it's the O-ring or if it's just that this little top cap isn't deep enough. It doesn't fit well. But what it resulted in me, the idea behind this top cap is supposed to be that it makes it very easy when you need to drip. Instead of taking this whole sleeve off of the base, you can just pull this off. But I had such a problem trying to put this thing back on, I decided to no longer do that, and I pulled the whole sleeve off. Now, you do have these extra rings for your own drip tips. Now, the way before we even get into that, you can put your own drip tip into the top of this. So you can take any drip tip you want, 510 drip tip, and put it in. Give you a little bit cooler vape. Give you a little bit more flavor though, because you're constricting it even more. It takes it from a wide bore to, you know, a standard 510 hole or whatever type of drip tip you have. So you can do that, or you can use one of these adapters. Now, the way you're going to use these adapters is you have to take this little insulator piece off, and it can be very difficult to get off. I usually have to take like a pair of gloves and grab it, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get it off right now. You know what? Let me pause the video right here, and I'll try to pull it. Okay, we're back. And by the way, if you ever have a hard time taking apart your atomizers, like get a pair of these good kind of work gloves. And the leather on here really makes it easy to grip it so it doesn't slip out of your hand. Little extra side note for free knowledge. So anyway, you're going to loosen that up, and you're just going to simply unscrew this wide bore drip tip. Then you're going to take one of the pieces that they give you, and you have 2 different ones. You have one that's kind of lower and one that's a little bit higher. So if you want to maybe a little bit further away, and you're just going to screw that into this insulator. The authentic RDA does the same thing. You get one piece, which I don't understand why, especially at $160, they can't give you 3 of these, but that's how you do that. Then you can just put any drip tip you want on here and put it into the top of the device. And again, see, I have a hard time getting this O-ring to sit in there, and I have not yet gone to Home Depot or anything to find replaceable O-rings, but I don't want to have to change that O-ring every time I vape. So that's the Tobeco. Now let's take a look at the one I got from Fasttech.com. Okay, so the Fasttech.com one comes in this box here, and we'll open it up. And we have our rods, so it's a little bit nicer packaging. Then we have some spare screws. Spare O-rings, a little screwdriver, some wick, and they actually give you, if you can see there, 2 pre-made coils. So these coils are already made. Then we have our 2 O-ring adapters, and we have our Marquis clone RDA. Now we'll take this off, grab my ohms meter to pull it off, put it on here on the base. Pull that off. Now if you can look on this, we can get this to focus. The M on here is much cleaner. They just did a much better job on that etching. The Marquis is already very, very plain. You know, that's the only marking there, and then they also have a marking. They put a little M up on the top of the drip tip. Now that you have the same screws, same air holes. One problem that I found with the Fasttech is they have this same lip here to trap your leads, the ingenious part of Marquis. However, they have the wrong screw in the middle. This is just a standard screw, and the screw doesn't have that little extra lip that's going to trap your leads. However, if you look inside of the bag that they give you, in this bag somewhere, right there, if I can get it on the camera, is the proper screw. So they give you the one in the bag, but it's not installed on the device, at least on the one that I got. So you do have the right one, it's just not installed on there. You have the same O-rings here on the bottom, and this is what I was talking about in the other one, I forgot to show you. Here you have a copper adjustable 510 pin, as opposed to this one being silver. So this one is copper, this one's silver, and that's how you're going to know the one that came from Fasttech over the Tobeco version. And we get into our top cap. Here, they don't have a definition of what this is. They just say it's a heat insulator, but they don't tell you what it's made out of. It appears to be Delrin, but it's much deeper, and it fits on here much better. So if you can look at the difference between the two, you can see the difference. This one goes down deeper. The O-ring sits in there a little bit better. And I've had no issues at all using this one on this top cap. I've vaped. It sits in there better. It just grabs in there better. Now, the good news is, if you have a Tobeco version, or if you're buying the Tobeco version, and you ever deal with Fasttech, and remember, Fasttech does take 10 to 12 days to ship if they have it in stock. If they don't have it in stock, it could take a really long time. They do sell these, just these pieces, for like $1.37. So I actually bought some extra ones in case I had any issues. Now it's the same thing here. You're going to take off this little black piece. And then you're going to just thread on your 510 drip tip adapter. And it's the same thing if you have a hard time. Like I said, I use a pair of leather work gloves. And you can kind of grab both pieces, and it makes it a little bit easier because you get that grab from the leather. So that's how you're going to do that. So we'll just take this piece off. I'm going to put the standard one back on. And once again, even with this one, you can put a standard 510 drip tip in the top. Take one right here. And it fits just fine. So these are our 2 different versions of the Marquis clone that I found. And like I said, they both work well. I just have an issue with the top cap on the Tobeco one, but they are interchangeable. You can use them backwards and forwards. And I've tried changing this piece as well. It's the actual top cap. It's that O-ring that gives you a hard time. One other issue that I've had with the Tobeco is as I use it, this becomes very difficult to take off and on. I've had no issues with the version that I got from Fasttech. So those are the 2 different versions. Again, $10.39 for the version from Fasttech, $16.99 for the Tobeco version. So let's get down and build one of these and then vape it. So for the sake of time, I have already pre-made 2 coils. These are 8 wraps of 28 gauge on the 3mm rod. Just keep in mind when you do make the coils for the Marquis, make sure they're identical coils if you're going in double coil mode. And you have to have them wrapped in opposite directions. So one coil needs to be wrapped in clockwise and one needs to be wrapped in counterclockwise. So we'll take our first rod, and what you're going to do is take the rod that you actually installed it on and put that side down into the hole in the Marquis. So in other words, that's the 3mm rod that I built on. This upper one is the 2.5. That's the part that's going to be up. Now I'm just going to simply take this, take my negative, wrap it around that screw, and tighten it down. Now from there I can take my positive here, and I'm going to wrap it around that rod like that, and I'm going to come up to this little screw trap, pull it here, pull it a little tight, and wrap it this way. And that's going to secure that in place, and you have it right in front of your air hole, you can see. Now we're going to do the same thing over on the other side, and this is why you need to have them in opposite directions, because you want that positive lead to wrap up and around. Take the 3mm rod, since that's what we built on, drop it into that little hole. Take your negative, wrap it underneath the screw, tighten that down. Now I'm just going to make sure that both my coils are approximately the same height before I tighten in that top one. This way I don't have any issues with the coils, one being, closer to the positive than the other. Looks good just like that. Sorry for getting off camera there. Now I'm just going to take my positive lead and trap it up underneath like that and pull it back. And this little crown here is ingenious. It traps your leads, and now all you have to do is take your positive screw, put it into that hole. I have a hard time with this with my fingers sometimes, so we're going to just thread it, put it like onto the tip of my screwdriver and hold it that way. Put it in like that and tighten it down. And we're good to go. Now we can just clip off our bottom negatives. Pull out our rods. Just carefully twist them out. Check it and see how we are centered over the air hole. And before I pull off these positives, I always like to make sure that it's firing evenly. Okay, so wicking this is going to be a little different than you're used to. You're going to take a very small amount of cotton, almost like half of this, and you're going to kind of just ball up into a half, and then take something small, like a 14 gauge needle, and gently push it down into the coil. So we can get that on camera. Just want to gently push that down through and into the coil. Make sure you're getting it all the way into the bottom of the deck. Just like that. Now you can make a chimney coil with this. I'll put a picture here on the screen, and if you search on YouTube, there are several people who teach you how to do that. Now we can just trim those top. Get my scissors. Now we can wick it and vape it. And I'm going to use some melon boba from Good Life Vapor. And this thing holds a tremendous amount of juice. So I'll finish wicking this up, and let's go back up to FaceTime and vape it. Okay, so now that we've built it, let's go ahead and vape it. Awesome flavor. A lot of vapor production. Now that's a dual coil. I have it set at 21 watts. It's a 0.93 ohm coil. I'm going to bump it up a little bit, but I ordered this Good Life Vapor, and I accidentally ordered 12 milligram, and I usually use 6, so I can't bump it up too much because the 12 milligram, it just hits me too hard. So we'll bump it up to, we'll go up to 30 watts. We have the airflow wide open. This thing produces good clouds. It really does produce good clouds, and it's got really good vapor. Now, you can go ahead and put another drip tip on top of this if you want even more flavor. It's that good. Now, again, to drip this, all you have to do is take off the drip tip, and you can drip it right in there. And again, I personally like the one from Fasttech better. It just seems to fit in there better. Look at that. I put it in, no issues. Now, to adjust the airflow, you have your little barrel here like this, and all you have to do is turn it very slowly, and you'll close it off. And now you can get a little bit more flavor, a little bit less vapor. A lot more flavor. This is the Melon Boba from Good Life, by the way, and it's just phenomenal. They nailed this perfectly. Have you ever seen Busardo's interview with them? Absolutely perfect. Melon with just a hint of menthol, and I like anything menthol. Now, if you want to run this thing in single coil mode, all you have to do on your one coil, if you look in here, and don't know if you're going to be able to see it on the camera, but you're going to rotate that so that your middle hole is right over the air hole on the one coil. So you'll have it like that, and the other two will be closed off, and that's how you're going to run it in single coil mode. We'll put it back over to dual coil. One more vape, we'll get into the pros and cons. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of these devices. Before we even get into that, let me just say, the Marquis overall, absolutely incredible device. I love it. These are only the clones. They're not even the authentics, but like I said, this has become my favorite atomizer. It's easy to build, easy to use, gives me great clouds, gives me great flavor. Now, as far as the cons, we'll do them side by side. The tobeco version, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Everything about it, I don't like it. I mean, yes, it's a Marquis clone. It vapes the same, but I don't like the top cap. They say it's a peak insulator, but it doesn't fit right. Every time I try to take it off and on, it doesn't work right. This piece right here doesn't slide off and on easily. I have a hard time putting it on after I've dripped in it, and I have a hard time taking it off. And then when I try to adjust the airflow on it, it keeps tightening down the atomizer onto my device, so I don't like that at all. I also don't like the etching on the tobeco version. I know it's only a clone, but I'd still prefer them to make it at least look halfway decent. Either that or don't put the M on there at all. Now, when you get into the Fasttech version, which is the one that I have right here, I don't have too many cons with it. The only con I'd have with the Fasttech version itself is the fact they gave me the wrong screw for the positive. I mean, they gave me the right one in the spare parts package, but now I only have one. So they gave me the wrong screw on the actual device. But other than that, I pretty much like everything about the Fasttech version. Plus, it's $6 cheaper than the version from tobeco. Now, as far as pros, like I said, overall, the Marquis is an awesome device. I love the price. I mean, if we're going to go down to the Fasttech version, it's $10.29. Now, if you're going to order it from Fasttech, it is going to take, 10, 14 days to get, but you're going to save $130, $140, $150, so it's definitely worth the wait on it. Other than that, everything else about the device is great. The holes are drilled right. Everything fits perfectly. There was no scratches on it. There was not a lot of machine oil on it. So I like everything about that. So that is my video for today, guys. Hopefully it helped you out. Hopefully it helped you make a decision if you're interested in getting a Marquis clone, which one you want to get. Please do me a favor and hit the like button down on the bottom. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And remember, if you want me to review a clone RDA or RBA or atomizer, leave it in the comments section below or send me a tweet to Vapor Outlaw and I'll be happy to try to oblige. I really don't want to review clone mods because I prefer to buy authentic mods just because I know what's in them. So just keep that in mind. I'm really looking to review RDAs, RBAs, atomizers, tanks, things like that. So again, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, happy vaping.